Welcome to the Unpacking It Live podcast presented by Medi-Share. I'm Bryce Johnson with Luke Heaton and Henry Bieneme. We're here for the next hour to unpack sports, faith, and life with you, the Unpacking It community of sports fans. Oh, what a Monday. What a weekend. How about this coming Saturday? The greatest Final Four we've had in a long time. And the greatest matchup we might ever see. Duke, UNC, Coach K's final run. Here it is. You got to be kidding me. As we always say, Hollywood can't write this script. They were doing the Oscars last night talking about these movies. Get out of here. Those movies stink. Sports, baby. That's what you want. If you want entertainment, if you want joy, if you want tears, if you want uncertainty, if you want a Cinderella story, if you want epic matchups, it's sports, baby. It's March Madness, especially this time of year. That's exactly what we've seen over the last 2 weekends, 8 days worth of madness. Even going back to the first 4, we gave you tremendous madness, didn't we, brackets? Wow. Or you gave it to us. Unbelievable. So I am fired up. There's so much to discuss as we reflect on what we've already seen and begin the hype for this weekend. As you know, I'm a Duke fan. Luke is a Kansas fan. Both of our teams are in the Final Four. And as you know, the final regular season game of the year, Duke fell to UNC. And little did we know that would set up both of them to catapult them to the Final Four. We will unpack that in just a little bit during our Unpack This segment. How does that relate to our own lives? We will also have some fun with Tap Drill. We'll talk a little movies during that segment, a couple other sports stories, some fun stuff. How about Peyton Manning having a request for Tom Brady? Got to discuss that. But it is madness today. And actually, I want to spend some time talking about St. Peter's as well, because that really is, one of the more memorable stories of this tournament, and want to give them kind of the fair due and take a look at that as sports fans today as well. But plenty of thoughts about Duke and Carolina. And let me say this, as a Duke fan, I absolutely wanted this matchup. I wanted the rematch. But what I've already started to notice, even going into last night's St. Peter's UNC matchup, Tar Heel fans not as eager, not as confident, not as excited about the matchup and the possibility of losing to Duke and then watching Duke go on to win. So they want to hang on to that final win at Cameron and how just epic, monstrous, I was going to say. It seems like a funny word, monstrous, but that's what popped in my head. That it was at that time, but now our perspective on that changes a little bit, I think, all these weeks later. So I'll share more on that in a little bit. And then the fact that we got Villanova in the mix too against Kansas, this is wild. This is fantastic. So what are you convinced of today? What are your thoughts on this Final Four? I think college basketball is back. Not that it necessarily went away, but there's maybe been a little negativity about the sport in recent years. Throw that away. We're back, baby. College basketball is awesome, and I love this time of year. All right, thank you to Medi-Share, our presenting sponsor. Medi-Share has provided my family plenty of wonderful coverage, an affordable and effective way to pay for healthcare over the last 5 years, and so excited to be able to promote them and link arms with them as our presenting sponsor. Medi-Share is an innovative healthcare solution for Christians looking to save money without sacrificing on quality. Medi-Share is a biblical, affordable alternative to health insurance. Go to Medishare.com/unpackingit, Medishare.com/unpackingit. Luke, the momentum, the excitement continues. How are you doing?
Oh, rock chalk Jayhawk, my friend. RCJH. Oh, it is great. Man, I love me some Kansas Jayhawks basketball. and we are in the Final Four. How about that? Our two squads in the Final Four, and we are both one game away from potentially having to put our friendship on pause.
That's
So
right.
Duke and KU could
Absolutely.
meet in the finals, and I didn't even consider that an option going into the tournament. I didn't think either Duke or KU was good enough to make the championship game. But will I take it? Absolutely. So I am on cloud 9 today.
All right, so we got to go back to the weekend though before we do our I'm convinced for this week. You texted me or G chatted. We communicate on G chat.
G-chat.
It's basically an ongoing thread.
Bryce is all
Bryce
is all about that the Google suite. He's team Google. So
yeah,
I jumped on board.
It's convenient. It all kind of flows together. So all of a sudden Sunday we're gearing up for the Elite Eight games. Your team Kansas going up against Miami, and all of a sudden you find yourself out to lunch with plans. Now I've made a strict rule that very little plans take place in the month of March, first week of April. Like I don't like to put anything else on the calendar, and I'll take things as they come and say, okay, yeah. No, I could celebrate my cousin's birthday. Oh, we're going to be at my parents' house, so there will be a television on. I have somewhat control over it, so I'm willing to adjust a little bit, but overall, no plans. However, you found yourself in the middle of plans in the middle of your team's game on a Sunday afternoon. What happened?
I found myself in a nightmare situation. And I was confiding in you and just I was just giving you all of my emotions. So you all know I'm a huge basketball junkie, and I watch copious amounts of basketball. Ooh. So when my Kansas Jayhawks are on, it's not even question I'm watching. There's some games where I have to talk with Madeline, say, hey, I think this is a game I'd like to watch. Okay, yeah, it's a game. Maybe let's do something else instead of this game. But when the Jayhawks are on, yeah, we'll be watching in the home court advantage. I want to watch on my couch. I want to have control of what's in the fridge, the drinks I'll be drinking, the food, the temperature of the air in the house. I want to control the variables. When you host your Super Bowl party, you control the variables. So I had absolutely no control. So my sister, we were all meeting her boyfriend's family. So it was going to be a Sunday afternoon. I did not know what time it was going to be on. But when Kansas made the Elite Eight, I thought, oh no, this could be an issue. And it was 1:20 start time, Central Time, lunch scheduled for 1:30. And it's my favorite Mexican food place.
Very late lunch.
At post-church. It was my favorite Mexican food place, and I've never been least excited to go to this place ever. I'm always so pumped to eat here. The place we went, where you got unbelievable amounts of sour cream, that same restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
And we show up. I'm in a bad mood. My wife is encouraging me. We're listening to it on the radio in the car. And I'm like, gosh, Luke, I'm wearing my KU shirt. So I'm like, should I just throw subtle hints that I would rather be watching the game? I'm pulling up with my KU shirt. Oh.
No, I always find it actually embarrassing when I know a team is playing and somebody is wearing that shirt in public, not watching that game. I'm thinking, what are you doing? You're not watching the game. You get to take the shirt off. Take the shirt off.
And now you know
that would have been
maybe that person was invited against their will to a lunch. So I'm messaging you. This is a nightmare. I don't know what to do. I'm having to put on a brave face. And I will admit, I love sports, and I'm going to get frustrated when I can't watch my team, sometimes at the sacrifice of relationships. But I show up, and the greatest thing happened. My sister's boyfriend notices the KU shirt. He said, oh, yeah, KU's playing. Yeah, I'll pull the game up on my phone. Game playing on his phone the entire lunch. And I strategically picked the end of the table in the corner to where I could divert my eyes to the phone at any time. And we watched the game while conversing, and it was fantastic.
So it worked out.
Well,
you didn't have to pull the, ooh, my stomach is hurting, I have to go to the bathroom. You
so
have to
I
do
was
that
planning
25 times.
on the drive over there. I'm telling Madeline I'm going to have to take a long bathroom break on numerous occasions. So she was already planning for that. But now with the game on, it ended up being great. Meeting their family was awesome. So it ended up working out. But the drive there, I was not a good mood. So it worked out. But it was potential nightmare situation.
Win. Well, and Kansas was down at halftime. It was very surprising.
So driving to the restaurant, the only thing I'm hoping for is let it just be a blowout. If Kansas wins by 30, I didn't miss much. That's my saving grace here. And they're down at halftime, and I'm thinking, are you kidding me? But I was able to watch.
That game was one of the more like, wait, what just happened games? Because all of a sudden, Kansas, they were unstoppable. And Miami had nothing, no answers. Yep. And Larinaga, like his go-to line during the first half and even earlier in the second half, I think, was we just have to run faster. You better come up with something better than that. You didn't run fast enough. Your guys did not run fast enough. So thanks for playing. Good run for Miami. You were too slow. I don't know. There's a lot of issues. You couldn't hit a shot in the second half. It was all KU. So KU finds themselves in the Final Four alongside Duke, Carolina, Villanova, all teams with multiple championship wins over the years, the Blue Bloods, as they like to call them. This is fantastic. However, let's begin our show with now we're in our show, but let's take another step.
That's right.
I'm convinced the St. Peter's run is the story of the tournament up until this point, right? Now we'll move forward with the Final Four. But it's all about St. Peter's. And as great of a run as this is, I'm convinced it's my second favorite. It's my second favorite run behind Davidson. The Steph Curry Davidson run. Yes, that is a Cinderella story because that was, at the time, there was a SoCon team, smaller conference. You got to win the conference to get in the tournament. And so they, of course, had a special player in Steph Curry, which made that run much different than St. Peter's because St. Peter's run was not about an individual player. Edert was probably the most memorable player just because he's different in personality and all that. But he came off the bench. Yeah. But it was 10 guys deep. Even at one point, it was 5 in, 5 out. So their run for St. Peter's was extremely special. And that's what I want to focus on today is giving them love because very rarely do we see the 15 seed do what they did. We've never seen them go to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
But I was reading something that reminded me too that normally when a team makes a run, it's because another team also got upset, right? You have kind of an easier road. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the case for St. Peter's. Actually, the one surprise was facing UNC, an 8 seed in the Elite Eight. Yep. But other than that, it's Kentucky 2 seed. It's Murray State, the 7 seed. It's Purdue, the 3 seed.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unreal. So I love that you bring up Davidson because I get to brag on my Jayhawks. Although I have a great memory with a Cinderella for Kansas and a horrendous memory because I was worried you're going to bring up VCU. And VCU beat Kansas on their route to the Final Four. And Davidson almost beat Kansas in the Elite Eight when they made their run. That Davidson run's probably underrated because there's the George Masons, the VCUs that made a Final Four. But that Davidson team, like those Steph Curry's highlights at Davidson are ridiculous. And we can't keep in mind, he was a lottery pick out of Davidson. He was the real deal.
But at that time, like people had heard rumblings about him. And actually, I was at App State during that time, and Davidson was in our conference. So he came and played in Boone.
Oh, wow.
And so, all right, so that was 2008. They were the 10th seed. They defeated number 7 Gonzaga, number 2 Georgetown, number 3 Wisconsin, and then they lost in the Elite Eight to the eventual champion Kansas. So that's a really impressive run. Now, how does that compare to what we saw with St. Peter's? To me, the fact that St. Peter's was such a small, unknown school with unknown players and a coach that it's almost like we should have known him. He was in the 1996 All-American game with Kobe Bryant, the McDonald's All-American game. Yeah. Was in the Sweet 16 as a player at Seton Hall, Shaheen Holloway, and he was really the star of this St. Peter's team as the head coach. And he'll go down as very, very memorable and most likely will take over at Seton Hall. But I'm curious people's takes on Shaheen Holloway as the tournament went on. Because early it was fun. It was cute. It was, oh, man, this guy's confident. And then I think he may have worn people out eventually. I was still on board. I loved it. And even though they got blown out yesterday by UNC, normally that's what happens to this type of Cinderella team. You eventually hit the team that's going to get you. You kind of get to a level where it's just like, all right, you had a great run. Now it's over. And that happened yesterday. It was very clear, very early. And so good for UNC to knock them out. Do what Kentucky couldn't do, Purdue and Wichita State. So
well, St. Peter's is probably the smallest, most unknown school Cinderella-wise, right?
No question.
Davidson has hit. But to make it this far, Florida Gulf Coast, Oral Roberts as 15 seeds. But the Davidson run, they have history, and they're in the state of North Carolina, so they're around bigger schools. VCU, I guess I don't know VCU, George Mason, but St. Peter's. Like looking at pictures of where they play home games.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. How are they competing with anyone? The picture of where Kentucky plays versus St. Peter's. It's like, wait, is this a joke? And yet they're knocking off premier programs to beat Kentucky and Purdue in the same tournament. To be one of the 8 remaining teams is unbelievable. And I've never even heard of St. Peter's before.
No way. No.
99% of fans have never heard of them. No one even knows where they are. I had to look up. They're from New Jersey. No one knows anything about them, even though they've watched them play 3 times. That's right. So outside of watching him, do you know anything about him? Well, actually, no. I still don't know anything about him. It's remarkable.
It is. So I just wanted to give them some love because I do think even 10 years from now, 20 years from now, this is a memorable run. This goes down in the history. And, UMBC beating Virginia is still a big deal, 16 over a 1, but they only won 1 game. Yeah. And they lost like the next round. Or the next game. So it didn't even, which is the next round. But so to me, like that didn't carry enough momentum to where you like got to know them and followed them. And it just wasn't quite as captivating in an ongoing way. Whereas when you build multiple weekends with a Cinderella team, that's the key. That's where you go into another level of memory. All right. So with that said, the biggest story for me personally, and I think the biggest story nationally too, is the fact that Duke and UNC are playing in the tournament for the first time. And what makes this so fascinating is you want to see it as a fan. Duke, Carolina, there's no greater rivalry in college basketball. But at the same time, you don't want to be the team that loses because it's going to be devastating for either team. Now, this year is unique because it does feel like all the pressure is on Duke because they already lost the game at Cameron. This is Coach K's final season. They're clearly the better team on paper, and even the way Duke's been playing in this tournament, they're playing as well as anybody. The win over Arkansas was very convincing. The win over Texas Tech was very convincing. Now, Carolina, same thing, but their guys aren't necessarily expected to go high in the NBA draft. Banchero, it seems like everybody's kind of jumping on that bandwagon as he's probably the number 1 pick at this point, as talented as he's shown all season long, especially in this tournament. And so for Carolina as an 8 seed, they've definitely overachieved. Nobody was thinking they were going to the Final Four. And for me, and I think a lot of Duke fans, we were hesitant just based on that loss to Carolina, the loss to Virginia Tech in the tournament. And it just felt like Duke's kind of limping in to the tournament. And then you got Gonzaga as the number 1 team overall and the number 1 team in Duke's region. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't pick Duke to go in my main bracket. But once Duke beat Michigan State, and I talked about it on last week's show, something clicked. This Duke team, finally things came together, and now you've seen it the last couple of games. Everybody knows their role. Everybody is kind of feeling comfortable in what they're trying to do. And Coach K, I go back to that game against Carolina. And this is what we'll talk about for Unpack This today. When we take a sports story related to our own lives and related to the Bible. Devotionals go out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Hopefully you're already subscribed to the devotional. If you aren't, you can do that on unpackingit.com. Our goal with this show and with this ministry is we want to point sports fans to Jesus. And so we talk sports, we write about sports, but ultimately we want it to lead back to the Bible, back to Jesus. And so that's what we try to do each day, each week here at Unpacking It. And so going back to that game in Cameron, the final regular season game, this was a pivotal moment in this season. And ultimately in, for Carolina fans, for Duke fans, it was a huge game. And then in that moment, we weren't necessarily thinking about the Final Four. All of this has happened in the last couple of weeks, but we have to go back to that moment now that we can look back. And so to me, when I look back at that game, Coach K was outcoached. And after the game, I blame the players. How could you let this happen? How could you lose, in Coach K's big moment? But looking back, Coach K was outcoached. He was caught up in the moment. He was not prepared. He was distracted. It was all about him that night. And it wasn't about basketball. And so Carolina, they get the credit for winning that game. And I read this today, which I thought was really good. Nobody knew at the time, I think this was from Sports Illustrated, but that game served as the springboard for them both to go this far. North Carolina gained confidence. Duke grew out of adversity. If the outcome had been different in Durham, neither might be going to New Orleans. And so I love that. That summarizes it because I believe that. I definitely don't think Carolina would have been here if they didn't get the confidence from beating Duke in that final game. And the way that they prepared for that game, the way that they overcame kind of the shenanigans that took place that night, Carolina went to win, and they did it, and it was phenomenal for their vantage point. Now for Duke, that woke them up. That to me got it's all about Coach K kind of out of the way. And these last few games in the tournament, it's been about these players stepping up. And Coach K, I think, being in the moment of setting his players up well to maximize their abilities. We've known this team is talented. And Jay Billis, what did he say on ESPN? Let me find that quote because it was really good. He summarized it too. He said, "It's been a stunning reversal. They've always had the most weapons, but now those weapons are in total sync on the floor right now, both ends of the floor." So we've known that Duke's talented, but now things are clicking. Now things make sense, and Coach K's maximizing them. And so it goes back to that game. And who would have thought that a loss would be so beneficial for Duke and a win would be so beneficial for Carolina? And so how does this relate to our own lives? I absolutely believe that throughout our journey of faith, God uses the wins and the losses to change us, grow us, and set us up for what he has next for us. And in the moment, we can't see down the line. We don't know that a Final Four is ahead of us. And in the moment of a loss, there's no way we can imagine a Final Four. And I think for Carolina, based on the season that they had, huge blowout losses that they had throughout the year. People were questioning Hubert Davis. And so heading into the tournament, I don't think people were thinking Final Four. That wasn't what that team was about. But that win was setting them up for an amazing run. The win over Baylor, impressive wins along the way for Carolina, and the way that they're playing with multiple guys stepping up. Caleb Love, huge game the other night. Manic continues to be fun to watch. Baycott, 20 and 20 last night, 20 plus. He's playing out of his mind. And so Luke, I look back at that game, and it truly has been this special. What was the word that Sports Illustrated used? Use it.
Use it. Blessed.
That's right.
Super Christian over
springboard.
here. Use
Yeah,
it.
use it. It springboarded. It was a true springboard. And so when we look back at our life, what are the things that God has used to springboard us to what's next? And where do we stand right now? Because some of us we're in a season now where it's like, man, I can't believe this loss that I'm facing, that I've just dealt with. And some of us, maybe we just got a win and we're so happy about the one win, and God's actually preparing us for more wins to come. And there's other things that are about to happen that we can't even imagine right now. And so that's how, God works in many ways. And so we go back to one of my favorite verses in the Bible, and it's Romans 8:28. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. And so that means God causes everything, the wins, the losses. He's working things together for good, for his purposes in our lives. And so we can embrace the wins, we can embrace the losses, and we never know how he's going to do it or what's next or what's going to happen in the tournament ahead of us, so to speak, in the journey ahead of us, and how that one win is going to lead to 3 more wins that we never could have imagined, or that one loss is actually going to prepare us and humble us and set us up for the 3 or 4 wins ahead of us. And so I hope that we can all find hope and confidence and faith in that truth, the amplified version for Romans 8:28. And we know with great confidence that God, who is deeply concerned about us, causes all things to work together as a plan for good for those who love God, to those who are called according to his plan and purpose. And so it's a powerful verse when we really believe it and grasp it and live by it. And I've seen it play out in my life a number of times in big ways, but also in little ways too, knowing that God is orchestrating the losses, the wins, for his glory and for my good. And so it's amazing. And anything jump out to you, Luke, in your own life where you've seen the promise of Romans 8:28 play out for you? A win, a loss, how he's used it for good.
Well, it's just amazing knowing that is a promise in Scripture, that, and it's not our own selfish good, but it's for those who love God. And when we love God, we want his will to be done. And he is going to accomplish his will and his purposes because he's sovereign. And, one way he's done that in my life is, losing my dad at a young age. Obviously, when that happened, so I was 8 years old. When that happened, I could have never imagined how God would have used that. But to see how I've been able to encourage people who have lost a family member. My mom ministers to so many single moms and widows. And God's been able to comfort us in order for us to comfort others. And that's been just one huge example on how God doesn't waste pain. He works things for his glory. And when we are in Christ, we are like, his glory is our good. Like, our good and God's glory aren't at odds with each other. But when we are in Christ and we love God, when God gets glory, that's good for us because we're part of his sovereign purposes and his plans, and he blesses us tremendously. And so that's just been one way where God's really blessed me, for God to be able to heal me in order to help bring comfort to others.
Amen. No, that's incredible, man. Really powerful. And it's just, it's amazing that, we think about, from a sports perspective, that Duke loss at home in Coach K's final regular season game, in that moment, that was the most pain I've felt in a while as a sports fan. Like, I was devastated. I was I woke up the next morning still upset about it. Like, you couldn't imagine that anything good was going to come out of that loss. It was like, no, this is the worst. And it's like, there's no way for this to be redeemed other than Duke winning the championship. But
which at the time was a very lofty goal.
A lofty goal. It was like kind of almost a throwaway. It was like, now he's got to go win the championship. But even then, it wouldn't have redeemed losing to Carolina. But now Duke has the chance for Coach K to beat UNC in his one and only time in the tournament, in the Final Four, to beat them on his way to a national championship and then retire. I mean, it's such an unbelievable, amazing story. And so you have to put it all in perspective. It was just a few weeks ago. It was just the beginning of March. And now we're at the end of March. And for all of this to play out. And so for all of us, if we really look back at our lives and see the really painful moments, the tough moments, the times that we were so discouraged, to see God's hand in our lives and work those and the ways he's worked things out for our good, it's amazing. I mean, I think back to, I just spent the weekend at home with my wonderful two daughters. Well, Jody and I, we had a miscarriage before those two daughters were born, and the sadness and the devastation, and not that I'm comparing this to, I am comparing it to a loss for Duke, but we use sports as parallels to our own lives.
Yeah.
And so if people are thinking, is he just making that yeah, I am. That's what we do. But to think about that pain and now the joy of my two sweet little daughters. I had special time with both of them over the weekend.
Yep.
And God worked it all for good. And the growth that took place during that hard season of uncertainty for us, God's been faithful and good to us in our own lives. And so I could go on and on about this, about just the truth of Romans 8:28, but it's fun when we see it in sports, but more importantly, what God's doing in our character, in our own lives, in real life, in light of eternity and in light of becoming more and more like Jesus. That's what he's using all of these circumstances in our lives for, to change us, to mold us, to shape us, which ultimately is for our good.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not only God allows bad things, but he also blesses us with good things. Like
that's right.
When Carolina is able to go in and beat Duke, that's a great thing for them that transformed their season.
Yep.
And no one would have thought they would have made a Final Four. It was not even a question. All the Carolina fans, a shout out to Tar Heel Phil.
That's right.
Had Carolina in the Final Four, winning it all. Kenny Smith has Carolina winning it all. And I'm like, oh yeah, well they love Carolina. That makes sense. Now they're in the Final Four. But I think in my own life, like for example, God blessing me with my wife, Madeline, is a tremendous blessing from God. And he's going to use her to continue working all things for my good. Not only has he used the loss of my dad, but he's used the blessing of an amazing wife to work all things for my good as well. It's both sides.
Amen. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a key part of it. Absolutely. The wins then lead to other wins and more blessings and experiences. So it's great. So there's the parallel and the encouragement for us today. Let's talk a little bit more about this game, because the reality is only one of these teams is going to win. And that's what's so fascinating just this week, hearing Tar Heel fans I do have a ton of friends. I probably have more Tar Heel friends than I do Duke fans.
Well, that probably explains the new addition to the setup. We got a signed Tar Heel hat and a Duke jersey, both added this week to the arsenal.
That's
What's going on there? Kind of dipping your toes in. I don't know where I was going with dipping your toes in.
I had to dip my toes in. Yeah, to find Duke and Carolina gear. Thanks. So my Duke jersey that's now hanging is actually a Jay Williams jersey. And so anyway, I liked him as a player. As an analyst, he's not my favorite. But as a player, I loved him at Duke. He was awesome.
Well, because he's Mr. NFL guy and Mr. Baseball guy. He's become a Kendrick Perkins, where I'm an all sports talk guy. You know basketball really well. Maybe stick with that. I don't know.
That's right. So anyway, I actually got, I may have told this story on the show, but I got that Duke jersey from a cap of a Mountain Dew cap.
What?
Like I won it on hey, you've
like the
won
Snapple thing,
jersey.
Except there's like prizes.
Yeah, this was like 20 years ago. And it turned out to be a Jason Williams jersey. My Uncle Kevin, loyal listener, Uncle Kevin, sent me the bottle cap, which then I ended up winning it. Somehow connected to him. I can't remember all the details. But anyway, so that's hanging on the wall for those of you that are listening to the podcast later.
You still a Mountain Dew guy?
No. Gosh, I haven't had one of those in 20 years either.
No love. Free jersey, and then you give up on the drink forever.
Yeah, not a Mountain Dew guy. If I'm going to drink a pop or a soda, it's going to be Sprite.
Hold on. Let me stop you right there. What, a pop?
A pop.
No way.
Come on, a pop.
Are you serious?
Yeah, good
Pop?
pop. Yeah, you gotta have a good
No
pop.
way. I have to go out. I have to say this. It's called soda. It's not called pop. I went to a
It's a soda
Kansas
pop.
Jayhawk
It can go
game
either way. It's a soda
and we
pop.
stayed
Go either way.
with my buddy's cousins, and they're like, "Man, I'm tired. I could go for a pop right now." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Popsicle? What do you mean pop? You know, Dr. Pepper?" Whoa, 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 whoa. Dr. Pepper is a soda. And then in Texas, every person calls every soda just a Coke. Yeah, I could go for a Coke. What kind of Coke do you want? Oh, I'll have a Dr. Pepper. I'm like, okay, first, can we go home, lock yourself inside, because that is not allowed. What kind of Coke do you want? I'll have a Dr. Pepper. No way. I cannot tolerate.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that.
That's bad.
But pop is short for soda pop, so it seems fair.
All
but
right.
back to the other addition to the studio here today. This is a worn out North Carolina hat that I had as a kid. So there was a time where I was probably a little confused, where I probably rooted for Carolina and Duke when I was real young, and then I finally landed on Duke. But I did go to UNC basketball camp, and there you could see. I think I have. Let's see. Oh, there he is, Julius Peppers. There's a Julius Peppers.
No way.
Yep. Ronald Curry. He ended up, both those guys played in the NFL. Ed Cota. There was a guy, Jonathan Holmes, he was like a little point guard. So anyway, so those are signed by some of the guys that were my camp leaders. And I talked to Ronald Curry, probably. I liked him a lot. And I had breakfast with this guy, Jonathan Holmes. So for the Tar Heel fans, I've got some love for him. And I'll even say this before the week of hatred begins. I absolutely love Hubert Davis. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I love Hubert Davis. And watching him at the end of the game yesterday against St. Peter's, the emotions that he had, this is an extremely impressive run. Now, Bill Guthridge also took his team to the Final Four when he took over for Dean Smith, a really talented team. But it almost felt, I remember in the offseason, it's like, oh, Roy Williams is bailing on this team. Like, he doesn't think this team is good enough. He's out. And, oh, Hubert, good luck. And then early in the season, they were struggling, getting blown out and all that. Hubert loves this team. The players love him. They've bought in, and he's shown what a great leader he is. Great man, loves the Lord. He was an awesome guest on Unpacking it years ago. So good for him. I don't root against him by any means. I root against my friends that are Tar Heel fans. That's who I root against.
True.
But I love Manic. I finally got a haircut yesterday, but I had a Manic look going on. I got to show you pictures, but I was wearing it. My hair was getting so long. I was wearing a headband around the house. It was Brady Manic like. So
yeah. So we had a meeting last Friday, video call, and you answered with the headband on, and it was, my first reaction was, actually, will you let me know when Bryce is home? And I'm like, oh wait, no, wait, this is Bryce. But it was a strong look. I was team headband in basketball in high school because I had long hair. But if you want to laugh, go look at Brady Manic's progression of his styles. Yeah. Buzz cut as a freshman, almost like Gordon Hayward, long swoopy hair in the middle years at Oklahoma. And now he's a grizzly man with the beard. And it is awesome. So I'm a little disappointed you gave up on the long hair. We've seen you with the 5 o'clock shadow, but I think you've got a little bit of a Manic beard in you. I think it's possible.
I don't think I can. I don't think I can. I've never been able to cross over to a nice thick beard. I can't, I can't do it. So, but no, I like Manic. So anyway, I like this Tar Heel team. I'm excited to watch this matchup just as a basketball fan. But of course, the storybook ending is what I'm rooting for. And to see my childhood team, the team I've been rooting for so long, Duke Blue Devils, let's see it happen. So I was pulling hard for Tar Heels to get there because I wanted to see this matchup. I really did. As much as I love the St. Peter's Cinderella story, I was over it. I was like, all right, one more wasn't gonna. I would have been fine with it, but I wanted to see UNC and Duke. But UNC fans, again, they've been a little hesitant about this, and so now they get to go into this game with very little pressure, I would say, but also knowing that, oh man, if UNC loses, now Duke gets to go to another championship, and this gets to unfold, and they do get the revenge game, because then at that point, if a Tar Heel fan brings up, oh well, remember we beat Duke in that final home game, that's fine. Duke won the championship and beat you on the way there. So it does nullify that,
Nullifies it completely.
which
So
is kind of crazy because who would have thought that would have been
yeah,
an option?
from a non-Duke or Carolina fan, like I get Duke is the better team and they have more talent, but every team in the Final Four is so hot right now. Duke is clicking on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders. With Roach has been the backbone of that team. Obviously, Banchero, in my opinion, Banchero is obviously the most talented, but Roach drives that machine. And I'll tell you what, North Carolina, with the emergence of Caleb Love, Manic has the ability to shoot the lights out every game.
Lights
Baycott
out.
is dominant. So Baycott and Mark Williams going against each other is going to be fascinating. Caleb Love versus Roach to see who's going to Manic and Banchero is going to be amazing. And then on the other side of the bracket, Villanova having one of their top players injured. I hate that.
Justin
now,
Moore.
obviously, does
That was a
that
tough
benefit
play.
KU? Yes, but I hate when players go down and have to miss big games. I hate when teams, if KU beats Villanova, I hate that Villanova's going to have in the back of their head, if only we had this player, because that's a legitimate thing. And so I hate that for the player. But even KU, the emergence of a guy like Remy Martin, Ochai Agbaji, the All-American, hasn't been scoring that much, and Remy Martin's been hot.
Great
And
story.
then Villanova is just, I don't know, Jermaine Samuels had a great game against Houston. So all four teams, no matter what happened in the regular season, they're obviously talented, but their players are playing really well. So it's, I mean, my personal opinion, it feels like it's Duke, Kansas inevitable. And this is where I get torn. I would love your thoughts on this. I am torn as a sports fan, rooting for Kansas. Obviously, I'm rooting for Kansas to win it all, but also rooting for seeing one of the greatest sports moments that would ever happen, which is Coach K winning in his last game ever, winning the championship in the season where he announced before the season started, this will be my last year. I don't care what anyone says. That would be one of the greatest sports moments in sports history, and we would get to see it. So I hate that I'm in this position because if it's Duke, Kansas, I hope Carolina beats Duke in the Final Four, so I don't have to have this divided interest on seeing Coach K win it all in his last game and rooting for my Jayhawks to get a ring. So that's the dilemma I'm in as a sports fan.
That is interesting, and we'll have to talk about it next week because really at that point, would only Tar Heel fans, let's say Duke wins, playing the championship, you'd have to think there would be like the average fan would want to see that, even though I know there's so much Duke hate, but it's almost like the Tom Brady hate. Like eventually you have to just appreciate and enjoy the storybook ending.
Yeah.
Even though with Brady, there will never be an ending, but just the fact that he went down to Tampa Bay and won, even think like neutral fans, it's like, yeah, that was pretty cool. That was remarkable.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought? Or who, just the fact that all came together. So it's hard for me to say because I'm very biased. So I can't, I just try to compare it to, I used to hate Tom Brady, but then I eventually just came around on it. I was like, this guy's awesome. What's not to like? This is fun. I think Coach K is winning a few people over during this run.
Like, I think he is. The normal Duke hatred isn't there. I think people are, at least the people I've talked to and am around, people are rooting for, you either absolutely want Duke to lose or you're like, you know what, I kind of want to see this. So I feel like I'm going to have to watch the championship game. I think it's going to be Duke, Kansas, and I'm going to have this dilemma of, obviously I'm rooting for my Jayhawks, but I'm also, I would have to root against sports history, which I don't want to be in that position.
No, your fandom, your true fandom.
It wins out. I just wish that
no
if Duke is in the championship game, I would be able to root for them without a divided heart. I would rather do that, and KU have lost. I just wouldn't. I didn't want to be in this position.
Well, I think what will happen, we'll take it one game at a time. I don't want to jump the gun. But we'll take it. If that ends up happening, it'll be interesting. So we'll have fun next week discussing it all. Now, if Duke loses to Carolina, then like I haven't even let that enter my mind. If that does happen, and then Carolina owns, yeah, we ended your career at Duke, we ended your career in the tournament. Then it's almost like I can't even be a Duke fan anymore. Then it's like I'm done. Like, because then it's like over. It's like you throw away the rivalry at that point. It's devastating.
Then you're tossing on the Julius Pepper signature. I know. That.
At that point, it's bleak. So
that would be something. Oh my goodness, can't even imagine.
But it's gonna be a fun week. The build up, and then the Final Four Saturday night. How does this compare? I saw a list of maybe the greatest Final Fours ever. And this list did put this year's as the best with 1975, UCLA, Kentucky, Louisville, Syracuse at second. Then the third best was 93, UNC, Michigan, Kentucky, Kansas. Number 4, 91, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, UNLV. 2008, that's definitely the one that I remember from being a fan over the probably since I was 10. So Kansas, Memphis, UCLA, North Carolina. That was an awesome tournament. And I think this year's tournament rivals that tournament. I remember that one significantly.
The Final Four is better without St. Peter's in it. Now, nothing against St. Peter's, but now before the UNC game, I was thinking, man, could they win? But once the game started, it was clear. All right, now we're back to normal basketball. This feels like a regular season or a preseason game. St. Peter's getting paid $500,000 to come play UNC. The Magic has run its course. But we didn't want to see Duke St. Peter's in the Final Four. We didn't want that. The loaded blue blood Final Four is amazing. And Cinderella stories are great, but I wanted Duke UNC. We all did. It's better with how loaded it is.
I think so too.
Man.
I do too. I think it's what ultimately most fans love. We love the Cinderellas early and then finish strong with truly 4 great teams. Now, were these the 4 best teams from the season? No, not really. I mean, Duke was up there at one point, but then they fell, and Kansas had moments where they slipped, and Villanova, it's amazing. Jay Wright deserves a ton of credit. So he's a phenomenal coach. And some people will even argue that he's the best coach, which is a fair argument. None of his players are up for the Naismith Award. They're not going to be first round picks. Maybe after the tournament, they'll move up into draft boards, but that's not where they were. Yet here they are. And he does it with unconventional players and a lot of times guys that stick around. And some of those players do end up playing well in the NBA. Kyle Lowry and Mikal Bridges was key for Phoenix.
Our boy Jalen Brunson in Dallas.
Who's that?
Jalen Brunson.
Absolutely. And he was second rounder, right?
Second rounder,
yeah. So tons of love. We probably didn't give Villanova enough of love, but my family up in Philadelphia, they'll be pulling hard for them.
Well, I'm hoping for vengeance. 2018 Final Four, they decimated Kansas. And, I mean, they won easily that championship. So this is redemption for the Hawks. Beating Jay Wright in Villanova. I was at that Final Four.
That there's a rematch there too.
I was at that Final Four, and it was a sad day. It was sad.
All right, so there's our college basketball talk. I want to make sure we get in our Medi-Share moment of the week, and then we will do some tap drill. But this, we got to sneak a little golf in. I did have some golf on since there was only one game at a time yesterday. It did allow for a little golf, but there was a special win yesterday for Scottie Scheffler, and I want to play what his dad said to him following the win. Here is your Medi-Share moment of the week.
I'm more proud of who you are than your golf. You're a wonderful young man.
All right, probably, is that loud enough? Could you hear it?
Play one more time.
All right, let's see.
I love you, Scott. I'm more proud of who you are than your golf. You're a wonderful young man.
There you go. So, sorry, I guess I didn't have it loud enough. But basically he said, I'm more proud of who you are than your golf. That was Scott's dad following the win.
Yep.
And that's what you want to hear as a son. That's what, as a dad, that's what your approach needs to be. What a wonderful example. I just love that.
So cool.
It's not about what we do. And, Scheffler's been on a roll. He's number one in the world now.
Number one in the world. Unbelievable.
And his dad, hey, you're a great golfer. That's fine. But I'm proud of who you are. Oh, I love that. Gosh, that's a powerful moment right there.
Yeah.
So that's the Medi-Share moment of the week.
Yeah. And Scottie and his wife are awesome. One of my buddies goes to church with them in Dallas, and they're awesome people off the course. So what his dad said is true. He has a lot to be proud of. Like Scottie recently came and brought tons of basically untouched golf shirts and just dropped them off at the church to a bunch of people. That's just like one small thing, and he's attends normally and stuff. But for his dad to say that, he has every reason to say, "Yeah, your golf is why I'm proud of you," because he's been on a tear. But it was cool to see the emotion. Scottie was tearing up, to see how happy his family was for him. That was amazing. So
that was cool. So plenty of great moments in college basketball over the weekend, of course, and the Hubert Davis moment. That was special too, but wanted to shine some light on that, because that's a really, really cool quote. You're a wonderful young man, and that's more important than the birdies and the golf wins.
And I'm sure and this last thing, I'm sure he appreciates hearing that more. Just from just looking at our own hearts, would we rather be told, "Hey, your golf's great," or "I'm proud of the man you are"? I'm sure that means more than if his dad would have said, "Oh, I'm so proud of how great you played today." It's
absolutely
Scottie. That means way more hearing that his dad's proud of the man he is.
Amen. That's it. Very, very cool. All right, let's bring on Henry Bieneme, and this is Tap Drill. He's going to ask us some questions, some other random stuff going on in the world of sports and life and entertainment. And no, we're not going to break down the Will Smith shenanigans last night. There's another show that's doing that. Actually, every other show. That's all they're talking about today. It was a wonderful weekend in sports, and all anybody wants to talk about, Will Smith and Chris Rock. So we'll let others do that.
Yeah.
But Henry, why don't you take it away with Tap Drill?
All right, boys. Will Smith and Chris Rock notwithstanding, there were the Oscars last night. They did give out some awards. So, boys, let me just go like this. What's your favorite movie that you saw from the last year?
So I've got a great one, and I don't think it came out in the last year, but I watched it within the last year. It's the movie Yesterday, where it's about what if Beatles music never existed, and only except for one guy who knew the songs, and then he becomes a superstar because he knows the songs. It is a fascinating movie. I absolutely loved the concept, the music. It was fun. That was my favorite movie. I think I watched it over Christmas time. So that was a great one. What about for you?
It was all right. I didn't love it.
You didn't love it?
Oh, it seems so cheesy to me.
You gotta let your mind drift, man. Let it just have some fun with it.
No. Here, I'll give the correct answer here, and it's No Time to Die, James Bond. That movie
I haven't seen that.
Was so tremendous. So Madeline and I are rewatching all the James Bond movies.
Oh, interesting.
No Time to Die was very good.
Okay.
We're gonna have to save that debate, Luke, for another day, because I'm about to post you up on that James Bond debate. But we'll save that for another time.
Ooh.
Next topic on Tap Drill here. I don't know if you guys remembered throughout all the stuff that's going on in sports. It seems like so long ago. Tom Brady unretired, by the way. And now Peyton Manning's getting in on the act because he says, "Hey, Tom, I gave you some stuff because you were going to retire. Now you're still playing. I want my stuff back." So how should this situation, boys, be resolved?
I love this concept and this story because I think it actually plays out in like other situations. What happens if you celebrated getting a job and then that person doesn't actually take the job? You take them out for dinner to celebrate and then they don't keep it. What about marriage? People that, you get wedding gifts. Do you get your wedding gift back? Hey, I gave you that toaster for your wedding. 5 years later, you're not in. It's very sad. I need that toaster back. No,
well,
you can't do that. You can't.
If you're given a toaster, you don't get a lot of leeway. If
that's my
your
favorite.
gift is a toaster,
That's my go-to gift. Everyone needs a toaster.
are you being serious?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh gosh, thank you. A toaster. No, we got to do better than that.
But no, I don't think you could give it back. I think what happens is when Tom Brady retires 10 years from now, Peyton Manning's off the hook because he's already done the gesture. So it was just a little premature, but hey, Manning did what he needed to do. That's it.
Hey, I gave you the gift. I acknowledge that we're not doing this again. Oh, by the way, the go-to gift for weddings is always going to be a crock pot. Always going to be the crock pot.
Game changer.
Yes.
How much is a crock pot?
It's actually not that expensive. We got one here, and what we do is that we put all the ingredients in. We go to work. We leave it on low because it cooks for like 8 hours, and by the time we get in, we put all the seasoning in. It's ready to go.
Oh yeah, no, I have one. I just don't know how much they cost. I was just curious. If that's a good gift.
I'll say this: if there is a registry and you get something that's not on the registry, that's a huge error. If there is a wedding registry that they worked hard on, and these are the things we want, and you go outside of the registry, what are we doing here? They know what they want. Just get something off the registry.
But
I got more platters than I know what to do with. I don't even know what to do with one platter, let alone 5 platters.
I made it easy for you guys. Here's the list. Pick something off the list. We'll both be happy.
Man,
all right. All right. Moving on to the world of baseball. Yes, folks. Yes, Virginia. We are having baseball. And of all people, Albert Pujols. Yes, Albert Pujols is still a thing. He actually just signed a 1-year contract to go back to where it all started, the St. Louis Cardinals. So, boys, let me ask you this. Who is your most memorable or your most favorite athlete who came back home to finish out his career?
Yeah, because I want to say LeBron, but of course he didn't finish in Cleveland, but that's got to be the greatest return. Did Allen Iverson ultimately finish in Philly? Because he went back to Philly, right?
I think he did like the 1-day contract thing.
Oh, that was it? He never actually played for Philly?
I don't think he ever really played for Philly. I think he did the one contract thing so he can officially retire as a Sixer.
Okay.
But I think his last playing days were in Denver, if I'm not mistaken.
So Ken Griffey, he went back to Seattle at the very end. So that's got to be one of the better ones. So I'm glad that Pujols is back in St. Louis. He should have never left, but that seems like a good finish to the career. So good for him.
I'll say a little Dallas flair, me being a huge Mavs fan. JJ Barea, the return from Minnesota, but Jason Kidd coming back to Dallas and winning a championship in 2011, and then coming back to be the head coach. For Dallas fans, Jason Kidd's up there for the greatest return. So that was great.
Charles Woodson went back to the Raiders. That was interesting. So yeah,
I don't think LeBron counts. I think he left again.
Yeah, LeBron doesn't count. No, not at all. So I think for me, for a Northeast guy, I think for me, with the New York basketball flair, it's got to be Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson started with Patrick Ewing, coming right out of St. John's, then went over to the hated Pacers and the battles that they had, and then Mark Jackson comes back home to finish out his career as a New York Knick. He was born or raised right here in New York, so I think for me, Mark Jackson's the best return, so to speak.
I'll let you have it.
All right, guys. Now, speaking of basketball, Bryce, I know this is a sensitive subject for you, but we got to talk about it. It's Kyrie Irving. The New York City mandate has been rolled back. It's been lifted, and now Kyrie Irving can play at Brooklyn, at Barclays with the Brooklyn Nets for the rest of the season for all of the home games. Now, I know you jumped off the bandwagon, Bryce. I know you were like, Kyrie's out, so I'm out. So what do you think about the Nets now that Kyrie can play all of the remaining games?
Yeah, so as people know, I'm not a big Kyrie fan. Going back to his days at Duke.
No love for the brotherhood.
No, I guess he's still in the brotherhood, but I no thanks.
He's the stepbrother.
He's the guy at like the other table at family reunions. I don't think now I'm like putting myself in the brotherhood with the Dukies.
Oh yeah, that's what we do as sports fans.
There you
go.
It's
our team.
But I'm still off the Nets bandwagon. And last night the Charlotte Hornets beat them in his first game, able to play. LaMelo Ball, 33 points. They go in with a convincing win. Now the Hornets are ahead of the Nets in the East. The Hornets are rising 7-3 in the last 10. So the Nets don't have enough. They went all in on these two guys, and now with Simmons, you can't trust Simmons. So I'm still off the Nets bandwagon. They're just not consistent enough. Kyrie hits some ridiculous shots. He's good at times, but reliability, all of them being on the same page heading into the playoffs, I just don't see it. I really don't. So I'm out.
Playoff basketball is so different. I agree. There's probably too much chaos behind the scenes. We don't even know what's going to happen with Ben Simmons.
Oh,
but in a 7-game series to beat Kevin Durant and Kyrie 4 times, that's still a tall task. So I'm not out on them, but I sympathize with being burned by a fellow member of the Duke Brotherhood. So rooting against him.
We'll say hi to Kyrie at family functions, but that's about it. So long as he stays across the room. All right.
That's right.
Finally, of course, we got to talk about Draymond because Draymond loves to talk. So on his recent podcast, he talked about LeBron James and going on to being the highest scoring player in basketball history, to which he said, hey, Coach Kerr, if LeBron is coming up on being number 1 on the scoring list, I'm going to the game. Is that fair or is that foul?
Wow. Isn't that a bizarre comment for an opponent? Somebody that you went up against each other in the finals and you're going to skip your own game to go watch them. Now, this wouldn't happen until next season. So this will probably come up again. But I saw this and I go, what in the world?
No.
And for one, if you're Draymond Green, show some respect to Steve Kerr. This acts like I'll just tell him I'm not coming to the game. Enough of this not showing up for game stuff. I guess there's like a deeper issue there for me. And Green, he hasn't played half the season anyway. So he basically picks and chooses when he plays already. So now he wants to be, if you want to be, here. All right, either be a player or go be part of the media and be a fan. You choose. If I'm Steve Kerr, that's what I say. You want to be a part of the moment and go retire.
It's ridiculous. You're going to be at your team's game. What are we doing here? I by no means ever wish to be an NBA coach. Obviously, it's never even going to happen. But to be an NBA coach, these guys are their own brands, their own coaches. How do you gain respect? I don't know. I probably have a somewhat ignorant view, but at least college, you're the clear authority. In high school, but in the NBA, what's Steve Kerr going to say to Draymond? Oh, fine you? Okay, great. Yeah, here's a check. I'll be there next week. So It's ridiculous. Like, if you have a game, play for your team. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Skip the game?
I mean, you could see it on TV. You'll be fine. I don't know why. Why would LeBron need him there? He's got plenty of other former teammates. Maybe they played together on the Olympics. Was Green on the Olympics with him? Maybe. I don't know why they're buddy, but
it's not like Draymond hasn't been present for enough basketball history. I mean, he's won championships.
True.
So what are we doing here?
Keep watching Steph. Show up for Steph record-breaking game after game too.
Come on.
But on a side note, LeBron becoming the all-time leading scorer is a big deal if he sticks around next season and is healthy and can do it. That is awesome. All right, Henry, great stuff. Awesome tap drill today. This was a fun show. Great to be with everyone. I'll leave you with this absurd stat. How about this? Coach K passed John Wooden with his 13th Final Four, and now Coach K has reached a Final Four in 5 consecutive decades. Oh my goodness. Let that set in. That's unbelievable. What a career. The story continues. Like I started the show, Hollywood can't write this script. So you can have the Oscars, you can have Will Smith and Chris Rock. Give me Coach K, Hubert Davis, Brady Manick, Banchero, Roach, Moore, Love, Kansas, Self, Jay Wright, Villanova, Final Four. Here we go. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the hype. And Luke, I'm waiting until the end to tell you this. And Henry, I have to call this Sunday night, to see if I have jury duty on Monday. Very concerning. Very concerning. So it is my hope join. Well, let's not make a mockery of prayer, but let's hope that I'm here on Monday.
Civic duty versus sports fandom.
I know. Can you imagine if I can't be here Monday?
I mean, that
we have
nullifies
to do a show Sunday night. We have to do a show Sunday night.
That nullifies any concern I had with lunch on Sunday.
Yeah. So I want to be here Monday to talk about it all, but if not, we'll figure something out. But enjoy the Final Four, and gosh, let's remember Romans 8:28, and amazing to think how that one game, Duke Carolina at the end of the season, it was a springboard for Duke to be humbled and to make some changes, to reevaluate. It was a springboard for Carolina to have confidence, to build on win after win after win. And Duke, things seemed to click after that loss. They also lost to Virginia Tech, so add that in there too. But as far as Romans 8:28, we'll leave with this. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. I'm Bryce. I'm a sports fan. I'm a Duke fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected, and through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well, and I hope you'll join me as we live life as sports fans who follow Jesus together. Have an awesome week. Great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It podcast presented by Medi-Share.